Trump's $250 million civil fraud trial has begun in New York City. The no-jury trial in Manhattan is expected to last nearly 3 months, ladies and gentlemen. Former President Donald Trump and several of his children are listed as potential witnesses. Donald Trump arrived in the courtroom for the beginning of the civil fraud trial brought by New York Attorney General's office against the former president, his company, and 2 of his children. Now, Trump addressed the media assembled outside the courtroom as he arrived for the trial. He attacked State Attorney General Letitia James. He accused her of filing the case to damage him politically. Trump called the case a political witch hunt. Trump has been accused of committing fraud by both overvaluing and undervaluing his assets and exaggerating his net worth by billions of dollars. Now, James is seeking at least $250 million in fines, a permanent ban against Donald Trump and his sons, Donald Jr. and Eric Trump, from running businesses in the state of New York, and also a 5-year restriction on commercial real estate activities by Trump and his flagship Trump Organization.
Letitia James campaigned on getting Trump. That's what this is about. Election interference. Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, Fani Willis, Merrick Garland, and Joe Biden. This is designed to do nothing else but stop President Trump as he's leading by 10 points in the general election. We have a renegade judge here who's ignoring ruling of the appeals court. President Trump's assets are worth way more than what the court would have you believe. But this is all about 2024. Do not get it confused.
It's a scam, it's a sham. Just so you know, my financial statements are phenomenal. They are actually less in terms of the numbers used than the actual net worth. The actual net worth is substantially more. No bank was affected, no bank was hurt. They don't even know why they have to be involved. And they've so testified. They can't believe that they're involved because they were paid back on time, there were no defaults, there were no problems, and it was like a perfect client. There's no victim here. The banks were represented by the best, biggest, most prestigious law firms in the state of New York, actually in the country. Some of the biggest and best law firms, in all cases, the biggest and best law firms. That's who represented them. The banks got back their money. Again, there was never a default. There was never a problem. Everything was perfect. There was no crime. The crime is against me because we have a corrupt district attorney, but we have a corrupt attorney general. And it all comes down from the DOJ. They're totally coordinated. It's in Washington because I'm the leading candidate. I'm leading Biden by 10 points, and I'm leading the Republicans by 50 and 60 points. This has to do with election interference, plain and simple. They're trying to damage me so that I don't do as well as I'm doing in the election. Our country's gone to hell. We're a country that's in decline, serious decline. We have a man running our country who has no clue, doesn't know what he's doing, and you know it better than anybody because you have to cover him. What they've done with open borders, what they've done with interest rates and taxes, it's a disgrace. So what we have here is an attempt to hurt me in an election. It's an attempt to hurt me in an election. This never happened before, where President of the United States leaves office and gets indicted. And the reason I got indicted was that I ran. If I didn't run, I'd be sitting right now at a beach like Biden does every time, even though he's supposed to be working. So very simply put, it's a witch hunt. It's a disgrace. I was railroaded and fast-tracked. This trial could have been brought years ago, but they waited till I was right in the middle of my campaign. The same with other trials and indictments. It's all run by DOJ, which is corrupt in Washington. Everything goes through them. They're all corrupt people. Frankly, our country is corrupt. And that's one of the reasons I'm running. We're going to straighten it out.
Donald Trump and the other defendants have committed persistent and repeated fraud. Last week, we proved that in our motion for summary judgment. Today, we will prove our other claims. My message is simple. No matter how powerful you are, no matter how much money you think you may have, No one is above the law. And it is my responsibility and my duty and my job to enforce it. The law is both powerful and fragile. And today in court, we will prove our case. I thank you all for being here. And again, justice will prevail.
Let's get to our guest now. I'm joined by Edward P. Joseph on the broadcast. Thank you, Mr. Joseph, for joining us on CNN News 18 as Trump's legal troubles only mount at the end of the day. Even though he's politically way ahead in the Republican race, and in some polls he's even ahead of Joe Biden. But this entire pitch that has come in from Donald Trump, that the crime is against me. He keeps saying that again and again and again, something, he's harped on ever since his legal trouble started. How politically potent is this message coming in from the former president?
So far with Republicans, his message, Trump's message, is unfortunately totally potent. You see here, even Trump's strongest critics will acknowledge that he is an effective communicator. And we see that. He is an effective communicator. Donald Trump, he stays on message. You see him repeating this message clearly. This is because I'm running for election. This is corruption. He stays on message, and his voters, unfortunately, are convinced that it's correct. And we have to remember in the context, it shouldn't be so astonishing that this is the case, that so many Republicans would buy this. Why? Because this is the essence of a populist. We have to understand this is why they're so dangerous. The entire rhetoric of a populist, almost in any country, is these elites, they are out to get you, and I'm the only one standing up to them. I'm the only one standing up to them. So you see, that was the entire context of his presidency, of his run for presidency. I'm the only guy here with the guts to tell it like it is and to really take these people on. So this narrative fits very well for these indictments. Now, unfortunately, of course, anyone who pays attention to the facts, that is, unfortunately for Donald Trump, knows that his line is not true. He said, for example, they could have brought this case anytime. They only chose to do this now because I'm running for president. That's not true. And all of your viewers, at least, should know that. The revelations here only came up recently, in a relatively recent trial. It was actually, ironically, in a lawsuit that Trump filed against his former fixer, his former lawyer, Michael Cohen. So that's where this information came from. So that debunks this notion that this is sitting there in a desk drawer and they just decided to pull it out. But sadly enough, not enough people pay attention to those facts.
But
please.
And I completely agree with you. Does it matter what the truth is when it comes to Donald Trump? And my second question is that, I remember the 4 years of Donald Trump. He said, he would drain the swamp before he became president. And it was the people, the creatures of the swamp, if you will, who surrounded him, who he surrounded himself with in the White House, be it in his entire political career. And we saw, even after his presidency ended, so many people who were in the Trump orbit, they were not only convicted, at the same time, they were even pardoned by Donald Trump. The list is pretty big about the people who were pardoned by Donald Trump, those people who were his political hatchetmen, if you will. So how does the Trump base square itself with that reality that so many people around Donald Trump, they were convicted, they pled guilty inside court, yet they were pardoned by Donald Trump, the man who said that he would drain the swamp, and he's playing that same narrative again. So how does the Trump base kind of square with that reality, or is this political amnesia at the end of the day?
You're on the right track with your latter comment, with the comment at the end. We have to remember, of course, these are people who react emotionally to Trump, and who even have said, I've heard Trump supporters say, you can't pay attention to what he says. I've heard that from Trump supporters. So this is a blind devotion. It's very difficult, but you raise an excellent point here, because you would expect that even his diehard supporters would demand that Trump show loyalty to those who sacrificed him. And it's actually ironically the opposite of what you were indicating. It's not that Trump pardoned it. He's no longer president. He's not in a position to pardon these people. He's throwing them under the bus, including, for example, former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who he's just throwing under the bus. And Giuliani is desperately coming to Trump for help with his legal fees, which are enormous now because of the craziness that Rudolph Giuliani has gotten into, destroying his reputation. So this is it. Look at also this case, the federal case, which is very serious. Almost even Republicans, members of Congress admit that this is basically open and shut. Trump has no defense on these serious national security documents. His loyal driver and what they call body man, security man, and the IT guy thrown under the bus by Trump, paying the price for their own loyalty to their boss. And you're absolutely right. This is but these are the traits that we've known about Donald Trump all along. This so-called man of the people has a reputation of not paying some of the hard-working tradesmen and trade companies and tradeswomen who have worked on his building projects, his real estate projects for years. He has a terrible reputation in that vein. So no one should be surprised. But if you are a true believer and you're not interested in the facts, you're just reacting emotionally, of course, then it's very difficult to hold Donald Trump accountable for anything. Please.
Right. And you talked about Rudy Giuliani. There were other, members of that legal team who, played the entire shtick that, the election was stolen from Donald Trump. They went to court. They held all those press conferences saying that the entire election is rigged. Then when the legal trouble started, you see like many of them have gone to court and said that, they were mistaken. They were misled by the information and they did not mean to say what they said. In fact, whenever they went to court, they never had any evidence of fraud. All they were doing was, making that pitch in their press conferences. Do you think that that is something that has always worked for Trump, where many people who are part of his orbit, either they would apologize in court or they would, go to jail, come back out and, continue the whole rigmarole at the end of the day? In fact, I feel like going to jail and even lying under oath is not, a political dent for Donald Trump or his orbit at the end of the day. And that is a political plus point he has when it comes to the Republican base.
We have to hope, in the name of global stability, because this affects the viewers in your country.
Absolutely.
That the nature of leadership that we have in the United States, come on, we're a very large country and developments here have effect globally. And we have to hope that in the end, there is some baseline understanding in the country of the importance of adhering to the facts and to the truth and to the law. And in these cases, and you're absolutely right that there have been these pleas, and you're right as well that these cases, even some of them under judges, federal judges that were appointed by Donald Trump, have absolutely discredited and debunked the whole idea that the election was stolen. And what's important here, we've seen Republican candidates who are challenging Donald Trump, even they have come around to saying that the election was not stolen and that Joe Biden did win the election. So our only hope really in the country is that enough voters, be they Republican or Democratic, will understand and grasp that they're being fed things that are completely self-serving by Donald Trump and that have been proven to be untrue, and where his own most loyal supporters and friends and allies are the ones paying the price, and Donald Trump doesn't care a damn about them.
Absolutely.
That's something that his supporters at some point, hopefully, will understand. Please.
And you have to realize that if you even look at Donald Trump's political record, he's not a winner on the political scene. You look at